Emma had always thought she knew where her life was headed. She was 35, successful by most standards, working in a fast-paced job in the city, surrounded by friends, and financially stable. She had everything she thought she wanted, yet, as she looked around her apartment one night, silence thick in the air, a gnawing emptiness made itself known. The routine that had once felt comfortable now seemed stale, the achievements hollow. It was as if Emma had been living on autopilot, her days bleeding into one another in a haze of predictability. That evening, scrolling through social media, she stumbled upon a quote from Seneca. "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." It struck her, deep and unrelenting. She reread it, feeling an unsettling question rise within her. Am I wasting my life? The next day, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that had crept up on her, that restless sense of purposelessness. She brought it up casually to her friend Sarah over lunch. "I keep thinking about how easily time slips away," Emma admitted. "It feels like everything I'm doing is so painless. Like I'm spending my days chasing things that don't mean anything." Sarah nodded sympathetically. "Have you ever looked into Stoic philosophy?" she asked. "Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, they have this grounded approach to finding meaning in the present. It might give you some clarity." Intrigued, Emma spent the evening researching and found herself particularly drawn to Seneca's ideas on time, resilience, and the power of self-discipline. Her first test came early. Around mid-morning, a message notification pinged, pulling her attention away from her planned tasks. It was a social media alert, a friend's post, unrelated to anything pressing. Automatically, she reached for her phone but stopped short, remembering her commitment. Emma set the phone aside, grappling with the discomfort of resisting the urge. She hadn't realized how frequently she let such distractions eat away at her time. As the day wore on, she encountered moments that demanded her time, but didn't align with her new priority. Her boss casually asked her to cover an extra task, and her usual instinct would have been to comply without hesitation. This time, however, she politely declined, explaining she had prior obligations. The small victory felt monumental, an act of reclaiming her schedule. Yet, by evening, she felt drained. The constant effort to manage her time and avoid distractions had worn her down, and she found herself craving the mindless scrolling she usually indulged in at the end of a long day. She resisted, and although she fell into bed exhausted, she felt a new sense of control over her daytime hadn't slipped through her fingers for once. Day 2. Voluntary discomfort. The second principle she tackled was embracing discomfort voluntarily. Seneca's belief was that practicing small discomforts could prepare one for life's inevitable hardships. She started by taking a cold shower that morning, a stark departure from her usual hot, comforting routine. The shock of the cold water was jarring, and she nearly gave up on the idea, questioning if it was even worth the effort. But she stayed, enduring the discomfort, focusing on her breathing, and gradually adjusting to the sensation. The day presented further challenges. Instead of using her car, she walked to work, a 30-minute trek through city streets, and refrained from her usual treat of a morning coffee. As she trudged along, each moment devoid of her usual comforts, she felt an odd mixture of irritation and pride. By pushing herself to embrace these small challenges, she was forced to confront her reliance on routine comforts. Throughout the day, Emma felt pangs of frustration, moments when she missed the simplicity of driving or her ritual coffee fix. But as she adjusted, a sense of resilience emerged. By evening, she noticed a subtle shift in her perception. The day's minor difficulties felt more manageable, and she found herself less prone to agitation. It wasn't easy, but the discomfort brought a strength she hadn't anticipated. Day 3. Negative visualization. On the third day, Emma began practicing what she found to be the most challenging principle yet: negative visualization. She decided to spend 10 minutes in the morning imagining her life without the things she cherished: her family, her health, her career. This exercise was emotionally taxing, as it stirred feelings of loss and vulnerability that she usually avoided. At one point, she nearly stopped, wondering if she was bordering on morbid thinking. However, as she progressed through the exercise, an unexpected sense of gratitude blossomed within her. Picturing life without her loved ones brought a heightened awareness of how precious they were to her. She felt a deep-seated appreciation for her relationships and even her daily routines, which often felt mundane. This newfound gratitude lingered, coloring her interactions with others throughout the day. When Emma met her mother for dinner that evening, she noticed a shift in herself. She listened more attentively, savored the time spent together, and even held her mother's hand a little longer than usual as they parted ways. The exercise, difficult as it was, made her acutely aware of the fragile beauty in her daily life. Reflections on the first 3 days, the initial days of her journey with Stoic principles, left Emma feeling both challenged and inspired. The principles of time management, voluntary discomfort, and negative visualization were more demanding than she had anticipated, each confronting her with aspects of herself she hadn't fully acknowledged. She realized how often she relied on habits that offered comfort and convenience, and how much of her time was unconsciously given away to distractions. Yet, despite the challenges, Emma felt a renewed sense of agency over her life. She was no longer drifting through her days, but actively shaping each moment. The commitment to Stoic practices gave her a newfound sense of purpose, even if it was uncomfortable at times. Emma could see how Stoic philosophy wasn't merely about facing life's hardships, but about finding clarity and depth in everyday experiences. By the 4th day, Emma felt a growing resilience. The initial practices of time management, voluntary discomfort, and negative visualization had already started shaping her outlook, but she knew the next principles would take her deeper. Day 4, detachment from approval. Emma's next challenge was to detach herself from others' opinions, a principle Seneca believed to be fundamental for inner peace. Emma realized how often she looked to others for validation, whether through social media likes, her colleagues' opinions, or even subtle affirmations from friends and family. She decided that, for the next 3 days, she would focus on completing her tasks solely for her own satisfaction, ignoring the usual cues and judgments from others. At work, Emma tested this principle by presenting an idea she had previously shelved due to fears of how it might be received. She focused on expressing her thoughts honestly, without embellishment or hesitation, and kept herself grounded, even when a few colleagues raised eyebrows at her unconventional proposal. Although she sensed some quiet criticism, Emma found herself surprisingly calm. Rather than feeling the familiar rush of anxiety, she felt steady. She began to realize how often she compromised her own ideas to fit in. And now, having shared her thoughts without seeking others' approval, she experienced an unexpected freedom. The sense of liberation extended into her personal life as well. During a casual meetup with friends that evening, Emma refrained from oversharing or seeking sympathy when she talked about the struggles of her week. She observed how she habitually shaped her words to fit what she thought others wanted to hear, and found herself comfortable simply being present, without aiming to impress or please. Detaching from approval made her interactions feel more genuine, and by the end of the evening, she felt a clarity she hadn't known before. She was more anchored in herself, no longer drifting with the expectations of others. Day 5, Mortality Awareness. Be the 5th day, Emma felt ready to face the most challenging principle yet, reflecting on mortality. Seneca often encouraged his readers to meditate on the fleeting nature of life, to appreciate its value more fully. That morning, Emma took a quiet moment in her apartment, reflecting on the impermanence of everything she held dear. At first, the exercise felt unnerving, bordering on grim. She envisioned life moving on without her, the world continuing its rhythm in her absence. As she allowed herself to fully embrace the reality of mortality, a surprising shift occurred. Rather than feeling fearful or sad, she experienced a surge of appreciation for the present moment. Each part of her life, from the laughter she shared with friends to the quiet moments in her apartment, felt magnified in value. Emma took this sense of presence with her throughout the day. On her way to work, she noticed details she usually missed: the golden sunlight filtering through trees, the rhythm of footsteps around her, the laughter of strangers. She felt intensely connected to life's small moments, understanding that they were precious precisely because they were transient. That evening, she called her brother, whom she hadn't spoken to in months, rekindling a bond they had both let fall to the wayside. Mortality awareness had shown her the value of cherishing her relationships now, instead of assuming they would always be there. By the end of the night, Emma felt a deep contentment, as if she had unlocked a level of gratitude she hadn't known before. Breakthroughs and emotional shifts as the week continued, Emma felt herself experiencing a profound internal shift. The Stoic practices were no longer just principles to follow, they had become a part of her identity. She felt less reactive, more in control, and, most importantly, more at peace. Through detachment from approval, she realized that validation was an inside job. Mortality awareness had brought her a powerful clarity, showing her that life was not something to simply get through, but a collection of moments to savor deeply. Her journey culminated in an intense feeling of gratitude. Even the mundane aspects of her life felt vibrant, alive. Emma realized that her experiment with Stoicism had not only made her stronger, but had also brought a gentler, more compassionate awareness to her life. Each principle built upon the last, reinforcing a resilience that now felt unshakable. Reflecting on the week's journey as Emma reached the end of her Stoic journey, she took an evening to sit with her thoughts, journal open in her lap, reflecting on the week. Each principle she had practiced felt like a stepping stone, building a path toward a life lived with intention and depth. Time management had taught her the irreplaceable value of each moment, and voluntary discomfort had strengthened her resilience. Negative visualization had opened her heart to gratitude. Detachment from approval had granted her freedom, and mortality awareness had brought everything into perspective. She realized that her life was only as fulfilling as her willingness to be present and intentional in it. Lessons learned at Emma's week of Stoicism left her with a collection of lessons that would guide her far beyond those 7 days. The sacredness of time. By treating each hour as precious, Emma learned to cherish her days, filling them with purpose instead of distraction. She understood now that time was a gift she could never reclaim, making her more selective in her commitments. Strength through discomfort. Embracing discomfort had shown her that resilience was built through small acts of courage. She no longer needed to rely on comforts and routines to feel grounded, finding strength in her adaptability instead. Gratitude through perspective. Negative visualization had given her a deeper sense of appreciation, turning ordinary moments into precious memories. Life was fragile, and that fragility made it infinitely beautiful. Freedom from approval. By detaching from the opinions of others, she reclaimed her own voice. Emma realized she no longer needed to mold herself to fit others' expectations, freeing her to be authentic in her choices and interactions. Living with purpose, contemplating mortality had brought a sense of urgency to pursue meaningful relationships and experiences. Each day held value not because it was endless, but because it was fleeting. A call to action for reader. Emma's journey with Stoicism had transformed her life in ways she hadn't anticipated, and she felt a powerful urge to share it with others. She knew that each person could benefit from even a single Stoic principle, applied with intention. So, she encouraged her friends and readers to start small, to try embracing just one of these practices for a week. Whether it was time management, voluntary discomfort, or detaching from others' approval, she knew each practice could offer something profound. With her story as a guide, Emma urged others to try Stoicism for themselves.